Okay. Do bear with me, this is really new to talk to a camera, so apologies in advance for a bit of awkwardness in my tone, or if I struggle to find my words every now and again. So yeah, as the title should suggest, I have quit my job. My background is primarily in healthcare, and I don't really know what I'm doing next. So I thought I would give just a brief little story, or a brief little intro into my background and how I got to this point, and then I'll discuss maybe kind of a bit more of what I'm doing at the moment and what I'm hoping for next. I have worked in healthcare for 3 years. I have a degree in nursing, and after uni I worked as a nurse 1 year in the ward bedside, which I had an amazing team. So I'm surprised, like for myself, I wasn't going to be in ward for very long, but I think I needed that stability. I had the most amazing team, and so I worked with them for a year before then moving to theatre for something I was a bit more interested in. And I was there for a year, and then I took about a year out to go travelling. I took a job in my most recent role as a healthcare professional, completing like assessments for benefits, so like work or disability benefits, and I did that for just over a year, and until I quit 2 weeks ago. Just to kind of go back to the beginning, I've always kind of had an interest in creative things, in art, in storytelling. Creativity itself is just such a broad term, but I think I was just always drawn towards the expression of that through art in many mediums, whether it was, film, theatre, art, languages. That was what I was drawn to as a kid. That was something that I felt like I was kind of good at and that I wanted to kind of do. When I was in secondary school, it felt like maybe a mixture of a lack of confidence, but also maybe a bit of a lack of knowledge in what an arts degree can do for you. I'm a family, like we were the first generation going to university, and I think my own family didn't have much knowledge about what the next steps were with an arts degree, and neither did I, or I didn't do enough research, and I felt a bit lost. Although I had these interests, it felt like at that point in secondary school people were already working on their portfolios. People were already like miles ahead of when I was just thinking about what I wanted to do next, and it felt like so much pressure. And like as a teenager I was actually quite happy, quite a confident teenager. I had a nice group of friends at school, and the idea of becoming like an adult excited me so much, but knowing what was good for me was probably something I struggled with. I was a bright student. I generally did good. I generally did okay in tests. I did well in primary school, like really well. For a bit of secondary school, pretty well. And then study became more difficult. I still struggle with study now, and I struggled in my degree with it. And being able to focus was tough, and my teachers would often reference like that I had more potential to do better. So my grades were okay, but they weren't great. And again, that confusion mixed with that excitement to move on kind of just led me to make a decision and decide on a year course in the interim before I decided what degree I was going to do. And I did a course in film and TV production. Basically, that lack of confidence in myself was starting to increase. My friends were all going in their different directions, and it seemed like, I know everybody has their own insecurities and doubts, but it just seemed like everybody knew what they were doing next. And I changed my mind every week. It just seemed like the world was full of so many opportunities, and I wanted so many of them, and to commit to something for even 3 years seemed like a massive thing. Yeah, I found the group that I did the course with, a really sound group of people, and I was at ease around them, but unfortunately the confidence was lowering, and the need to make a decision about what was next for my life was just niggling in the background. And I had then made the kind of 180 decision to become a nurse. And I often still think about this now, like what drove me to make that decision. For some reason I struggle to remember it. I have little patches of, my memory is awful, but because maybe I feel so far distanced from it now, it's hard to remember, which is a shame. But I have no regrets about becoming a nurse or anything at all. I don't think you should have big regrets on those decisions because it leads you to where you are. But at that point in my life, I wanted someone to tell me what to do. I wanted a clear end goal, and I had heard of some girls from home who couldn't get into nursing in Ireland because it was quite difficult, applying to go to the UK, and that just like opened up a world to me, because I thought, well, if I don't know what I'm doing is one thing, but to move to London, that was like a long-term dream of mine since I was young. So it felt like, despite the fact that I would be doing a nursing degree, it just felt like I had more opportunity there to change my mind or do something different. Combined with the fact that feeling so lost and confused, I made this comparison, and it may be a bit poor, but like the military is for some men and women, a sense of like kinship, companionship and duty, or something to be proud of. That's what I felt like nursing could be. I thought I could help people, and I'm still very proud of the degree that I had and how hard I worked. And so that's probably a big reason why I don't regret doing it, despite it not being what I'll continue to do. I have a lot of value from that time that I spent as a nurse. So yeah, and my grandmother was also a nurse. I think seeing her influence, she was a really strong lady, and maybe when I was feeling a bit more insecure, I thought nursing builds a strong lady, so maybe that will help me. Yeah, a lot of hopes and dreams, but a bit of wanting to probably run away and go be myself somewhere else, so off I went. When I started nursing, I probably knew fairly soon, maybe a year into it, that this wasn't gonna be for me long term. Didn't want to leave the course. That felt like too big of a decision, because I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but I wanted to find a way to utilise this course to cater it more towards an interest. So it wasn't strictly leaving healthcare at that point. I was still kind of okay with being in healthcare, but I was trying to find something different to aim towards. For that moment in time, it was like perfusion for a little bit, potentially doing a master's. But ultimately, during the course, it's different for everyone, but I think you know if you fit somewhere and if it feels right. And it just never felt fully right. I was doing what I was supposed to do, and it was tough, but I had other things going on that were affecting my mental health at the time. But I think slowly but surely it's setting in that this is your future, and I wasn't happy. And so I had all these other kind of goals and ambitions to try and twist and turn it to my advantage. For me, that all the other elements of like working in healthcare, like being overworked, bullying cultures, understaffed, not being paid well, they were all huge factors that I could lean into, but they never felt right when people would ask me why I've left. Like, oh, it's because of this, because of that. Like, it didn't fit the mold of what I was telling people. It was almost as if I was a bit ashamed to just be like, I just want to change career. I just want to do something different. I don't know why that shame is there. It's maybe a bit of an insecurity of being a bit fickle towards your jobs. It didn't feel like this was truly where I was supposed to be and that things would get better. I lost that hope because I lost that hope a lot easier than others because that wasn't for me. And this isn't to diminish other nurses who have left their roles because of the working conditions and the strain it can have on them as individuals. That's just my experience and what I noticed when working as a healthcare worker. After kind of transferring to theatre and realising that actually going further with master's degrees and studying further isn't actually going to give me that fulfilment, I'm going to run away. In fairness, I had always wanted to travel to South America for 6 months to a year on my own after I finished university, but COVID came, so that stopped that. But as soon as things were lifting, kind of fell in time with when I wanted to do this. And I still don't really know the exact thing that drew me there. I'm half Peruvian, my mum was from there, and I think there was a level of wanting to connect with that side of myself, improving my Spanish, whatever it was. Maybe there was an element of a lost person that was trying to find her way a bit more by looking kind of backwards or inwards or upwards, whatever. And I'd always wanted to go, so I had decided I was going to go that year. I met my wonderful partner at the time, and I was still going to go solo because we had met kind of after I'd made the decision. But as time loomed closer, I think the anxiety started to settle in, and I also just fell in love. So I didn't really want to be away from it, but also I always was going to do this, so I felt like, well, what better way than to go with someone you love. I asked him to come with me, and he took a sabbatical. I quit my job, didn't really know what I was going to do when I came back. I just went. I think in a way, deep down, I was probably thinking that there would be some sort of resolve around what I was feeling and the unhappiness that I felt with myself at that point. And there was no specific time or a specific thing whilst travelling that made me realise, but it just overall made me think about how futile my problems really were. I was so privileged in so many areas of my life. I had a healthy family, a caring, loving, supporting partner, the ability to travel, a roof over my head, well, technically when travelling, yeah. And also I had a degree, like I had a good education, and I think I just thought to myself, like, this is ridiculous. I should not be this unhappy. I need to do something to change this. And so when I thought about what draws me more in and what has been something I wanted from a long time ago was the arts and that sector of things, but I wasn't, again, quite sure of where I fit into that. So at that point I got my latest job just towards the end of my travelling, just to guarantee us a place, and also it was a step outside of the nursing so that I wasn't going back to it, but it was like a stable step before I knew kind of what to do next. So I went into it probably knowing it wasn't going to be a forever situation, but it had a lot of benefits to it. But then that also slowly became quite stressful. I had a great manager, but just the structure of the working and overall the role itself stressed me a lot more than maybe my other ones. I was becoming so incredibly anxious, and I was taking like large amounts of time off sick because of that. It just got to a point where I probably realised my body is screaming at me to let go of this, because I know this isn't, I'm putting so much time and stress into something that isn't actually, wasn't the thing that was going to bring me closer to what made me happy. And that just feels like wasted time, and that weighs on you. So I quit. I was happy to hear like from my manager that they were sad to see me go, because I think sometimes in these moments in your life when you're battling these things internally, you can feel a bit of imposter syndrome and feeling like I'm not really doing a good job, I'm not genuinely in this. But I did work hard and I tried to do my best, and my manager said that too, which was just really, really kind and reassuring to hear that going towards the next step for me. So my current notice period is being fulfilled with some annual leave, and then in a couple of weeks I'm truly jobless. The last week and a half I've probably just focused on recovering a bit from the stress and burnout of the job, and I've still managed to be kind of productive in that time, even though I didn't force myself to be. It just kind of came naturally as soon as I actually let myself rest adequately, and just overall feel a bit more calmer and at peace with the situation, which I did towards the end anyway. It wasn't a rash decision. So one bit of advice is try not to quit your job as a rash decision. Obviously there's some circumstances that would allow that, but I definitely felt an element of peace that I was like, okay, I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to make this jump into whatever it may be. So at the moment I'm looking for jobs left, right and centre. It is incredibly difficult to even get my foot in the door. I think people talk about transferable skills, but it is really, really difficult, no matter how much you kind of zhuzh up your CV, to have a career change with very little experience. A lot of them want a huge amount of experience, which is fair, but also it's like, I don't know how to get it without it, but this is a completely different field and I need to build up something before they can feel like they can hire me, a nurse. I'm even getting no's from like minimum pay jobs, but I'm still going. I don't really feel like studying further is for me at this moment, because of the fact that I don't know where specifically I should target my interests, and you know, it's quite a financial investment, time investment, and it just feels like a risk to me personally. Maybe down the line, if I were to find my area, I wouldn't be opposed to it. So at the moment I'm probably kind of edging more towards apprenticeships, internships, anywhere that would just take me and let me show them kind of how enthusiastic and happy I would be to work for them and learn from them. At the moment I'm just trying to do the best I can to improve things for myself. So my CV, I'm just trying my best to make that look as creative as possible, transfer my skill, word things differently. I'm seeing an employment advisor as well as part of mental health services I've been getting. They offer an employment advisor, and it's just a check-in every now and again. It's nothing massive, but it's just kind of for those little extra questions that you might have about stuff you're not so sure about. It's good to have them there. I'm not sure if you can seek them out otherwise. I don't know myself. I just know that was offered to me, and it was helpful in some ways to kind of get bits of tips and advice on things. I've also attended some like workshops, CV and application tips workshops. There's a few websites that I can talk about if you wanted to know, and they've been helpful in just kind of gaining more confidence in how to put yourself across in the applications, because sometimes they just want your CV and other times they want like essays of things, and that's where you shine basically. I've also just been trying to gain some experience, so I've applied to volunteer kind of as for like charities with content creation, or just assistance with social media, that kind of thing, and also just making things, creating. So this, for example, I have a blog that I write on a lot, even just own creative outlets that don't need to necessarily be shared with the world, but like drawing more, writing more in general, not necessarily for the blog, cooking. I know it might sound silly, but just exercising that muscle, I'm feeling really good, and it's been a positive step towards making and creating more and more things. So I mean, next, what I'm hoping for, I would love to work in, you know, so many different areas, whether it was film, television, theatre, production, the arts, museums, galleries. Like, as well, I love languages. I don't even know how I could get involved in that, but I love languages. I mean, smaller roles, anything, whether it was working in a bookshop, being a sales assistant for a brand I really like, but whatever it may be, that's kind of just what I'm hoping for at the moment. And in the long run, just developing further and further work for myself, whether it's creating this kind of thing, building up that portfolio slowly but surely at this pace. But yeah, it was scary to make the decision and to, you know, speak to my family and friends about it, but I'm blessed to have such a supportive partner. I have such a supportive dad as well. So that really helps, surrounding kind of myself with the people that think positively about it. And most people that I know really well are like, yeah, I knew you weren't happy. Like, I'm really happy you made this decision. So that's really nice to hear. And then, yeah, if you'd like to know any more, if you have any questions, any suggestions, I'm going to try and upload kind of my progress, maybe with applications, what else I've been doing some classes, all that kind of thing. Let me know.